Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Right Hand Drive Guys podcast. I'm Bobby. This is Aaron.
Yo, yo.
And you are listening to the podcast for guys who like right hand drives. And today is episode 97.
97.
It was a good year.
It definitely was.
And it was the first year of the USDM Integra Type R. Yeah. And so who cares, right? Like, okay, dude, that's not even right-hand drive. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what we are talking about today is VTEC. And, VTEC, whatever, dude, all this
You've
stuff.
seen all the memes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, if you're listening to this, chances are you've hit VTEC at least once.
I hope you have at least.
Yeah, and if you weren't driving, hopefully you were at least a passenger in a car that hit VTEC.
Yeah.
Right? And, if you're like super old like me or kind of old like this guy, then when VTEC kind of like first really became a thing, it was like a big thing.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Wouldn't you say? You know,
100%.
People were pretty much calling it a turbo system.
Yeah.
All these things. It was mind-blowing, uneducated enthusiast minds, left and right, just poof, poof, poof.
Dude, and they I remember the emblems they used to sell back in the day at all the parts stores, the VTEC tuning.
Yep.
They would be slapped on everyone's Camry.
Oh,
you know, on their minivan, whatever, dude. But
yeah, Honda started something with VTEC, and
did.
not just when it comes to the mechanics of how an engine works, but almost like a trend, a heavy trend that, kind of like GTR, right?
Yeah.
VTEC became this trendy thing that, right, you would put the stickers on your car,
right.
you would, do your motor swap so you had VTEC. It was a whole thing. And so, back then, the internet wasn't like this, and we're talking, whatever it may be, 95 to 2005, right? And of course VTEC did actually come out long before that.
Yeah.
The first actual car I know was the DA Integra XSI came with a dual overhead cam VTEC motor, and that was the JDM version that came out with that in 1989. But you brought to light that it actually first premiered on something else.
Yeah, that actually first came out on a motorcycle because Honda.
What the heck?
Yeah, dude, Honda was pretty heavy in the motorcycle game.
Imagine hitting VTEC in a motorcycle and you're like, what the hell's going on?
It's actually cool. But their first one they came out with was in 86, I believe, and it was a CBR 400.
This is production?
Yeah.
On a 400, they had VTEC?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, on a 400. And then, on the same note as motorcycles, in the 2000s even, they still had VTEC on their VFR 800s, which is like a pretty big kind of sport touring bike. And I've actually had the privilege of riding one of those before. And, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It doesn't really do much, but, you'll just be on the gas. VTEC will kick in, yo. And it'll just start making all these crazy intake noises, and you get a little bit of a boost.
A little bit of a boost. And so, that's interesting. You wouldn't think it'd be so pronounced on a smaller motor like that.
Right.
Because you can only do so much with the size of the motor, right?
Right.
But yeah, we, back then we really didn't know, because the forums were just coming on, if that. And
right.
So you had to have a buddy that knew about VTEC or whatever it may be to actually explain it to you in a way that you would understand at the age of 17. Right?
Yeah,
because you're
hard to
dumb
explain.
when you're 17. You have no clue. You're like, what do you mean, dude? They got extra cams in there? Oh, no. It's extra valves in there? Wait.
Yeah, right. Wait, what?
Is it a turbo?
It's a turbo, right?
Yeah, it's
no,
a turbo.
VTEC's a turbo, bro.
Yeah, it is.
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, and when we were kind of refreshing our memories on some of this, I was looking on Google, and the most search phrase about VTEC is VTEC a turbo system? And it's like, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, we got a lot of learning to do. So here we are. We're like, let's do it. Let's do a little kind of episode on VTEC. share some of our stories, experiencing VTEC, and just kind of rip it from there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, VTEC itself, VTEC, no H, chill out. Okay, there's no H.
It's not a house phone.
It is not a house phone. It's not a kid's toy. There is no H. And you've seen that out there. It's crazy.
Millions of times.
Yes,
yeah. And they always try to rebuttal like, autocorrect got me.
You thought it was with an H, didn't you? And so VTEC actually stands for Variable Valve Timing and Lift Electronic Control. And so it pretty much, not only enhances the way that it operates, not only enhances performance, but can also enhance efficiency.
Correct.
Depending on the way that you use it. You can actually improve your fuel efficiency because VTEC helps in low RPMs, you gain fuel efficiency.
Correct.
Because it's using the smaller lobe on the cam, which is, again, more efficient. And so I'll let you explain. Go ahead. Explain in, layman's terms here.
Yeah.
How does VTEC work? Like, does the VTEC spool? Is it belt driven?
No.
What's the deal with VTEC?
So VTEC is electronically controlled by a solenoid. Whenever you hit a certain RPM, a solenoid activates.
What do you mean by activates?
It activates by, it's an electronic solenoid, and it activates through the ECU.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically sends oil pressure to push over into VTEC, I guess you could say. And that's where you get the larger cam profile and the change in the sound of the engine and the more power up top.
Uh-huh.
So VTEC kind of cures, what you might run into whenever you try to put a big cam in a car. If you put a big cam that's good for top end power, you're going to lose all of your low end. And vice versa. If you have something that's tuned for the low end, you lose all your top end.
Mm-hmm.
So VTEC kind of makes the best of both worlds to where you can have both of those things.
I see.
So that way, you're more efficient on the low end and also efficient on the top end, making more power and more efficiency.
Yeah, more efficiency, better emissions. Mm-hmm. And so pretty much, in that sense, you have multiple cam profiles. So you have both basically a stock EK, let's say, cam profile, but then you got the big big boy cam profile, all on the same camshaft.
Yeah.
So a VTEC camshaft is going to look a lot different than a non-VTEC camshaft. There's going to be one less lobe for the most part all across all of the valves.
Right.
Yeah. So
or an extra one, I guess.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Whichever way you're looking at it. And so, like you're saying, based on the engine speed, a 12-volt signal gets sent to that solenoid.
Yep.
And, of course, whether you're tuned or you're stock depends on when that engagement point is. But then that's when all hell breaks loose and the puppy starts singing,
seriously.
dude. They really do.
That's when your dash starts hopping. The wheels are going crazy, dude.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And so kind of like with what you're saying, the solenoid sends the oil pressure to the oil channel in the rocker arms, and then it stiffens up the one that's on the big lobe and loosens the one on the small lobe because the pressure is then sent to the big one.
Correct.
That makes sense. So, VTEC, it's simple. It's really actually super simple.
Yeah.
Now, when we were 17, we were like,
what?
We had no clue what and so at this point, it's really easy to understand. And then when you're in a car, like, for example, we had that DB8 Integra Type R in here. Yeah. And now you can understand what's happening as you hit VTEC.
Right.
And you're like, oh, wow, whatever it may be, those exhaust valves are opening more. And you can kind of tell what's going on. Whereas, when you're younger, it's literally just like, you know, and you're like, whoa, shit, we're going, you know, and pretty much, you know, now Mitsubishi, Toyota, Porsche, BMW, even our favorite Nissan, they have taken inspiration from Honda and created their own version of the variable valve timing.
Right.
You know,
which Honda's is unique. VTEC is kind of unique from just variable valve timing because it actually changes the cam profile. Mm-hmm. Most variable valve timing, all it does is advance or retard the cam, you know, as it's turning. So it's still unique in its own sense that it has that extra lobe that actually mechanically opens the valve for longer, not just adjusting the timing of it.
Right, because that's the lift electronic control part.
Correct.
Although, you know, I'm having a hard time. Is the L silent in VTEC? Because I see the rest of it, VTEC, but the L is just, it's missing.
Lost in translation,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah. From Japanese to English, they lost the L. Got it. Yeah, I mean, and so these other, you know, manufacturers have created similar designs to VTEC, you know, MyVec, Ecotech, you know, they just create all the names, right?
Right.
But VTEC is the original, and Honda had trademarked that name so that nobody else could use it. Yeah, and if they hadn't, you would have VTEC. VTEC would be like one of these other standard automotive names.
Right.
But it's not, because it's VTEC and it's for Hondas. And then, so basically, you know, Honda rides for quite a long time. You know, from 1989 until 2001, they rode the VTEC train. Yeah. You know, that was it. There was no improvements. And then, you know, you get the K series coming out. Mm-hmm. K series came with that iconic, you can picture it, that like valve cover type, you know, plastic piece that says VTEC on it. And you're like, wait, what? Like the RSXs came with them. Yeah. You know, and you're like, wait, what?
All of them did.
Yeah. Like, VTEC. What do you mean VTEC? And your homie's like, nah, dog, I got VTEC. And you're like, whoa, dude.
VTEC, do you?
Yeah. and you're like, wait, what do you mean, dude? Like VTEC? Like,
does that mean it's integrated?
Yeah, I got my B16B over here with just regular VTEC. And you got your K20 with VTEC?
What gives?
Damn, I'm going home. Like, I can't even mess with this guy. And so it's short for intelligent variable valve timing and lift electronic control.
As if VTEC wasn't intelligent enough.
Yes, exactly. If VTEC wasn't smart enough. Basically, it's just added ECU, you know, control to it. And it's a mix between VTEC and VTC. Do you know what VTC is? I think it's just a variable timing control. Yeah. So it's like it's a mix between the two, and it's a new technology as far as 2001 was concerned. Right. So I think it's basically just the electronics. You know, it's better ECU. You know, because in 1989 ECUs were very basic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I never really got much into the VTEC.
Me neither. It's just the same thing.
It was too new. I was always into the B series and those, even the Ds. Those are cool.
And that's another thing is, you know, single overhead cam VTEC is a thing. Yeah. For sure. It was a thing on a lot of cars from 2001 and, you know, whatever, like the shittiest Civics ever had. Yeah. Single overhead cam VTEC, you know, but you loved it. Yeah. It's still cool. It's
Dude,
still,
VTEC sounded sick.
Yeah, but you were just missing that one extra cam, you know, and obviously those valves and whatnot, you know, it's a whole thing. So I don't know, but what was your first, you know, VTEC experience? Where'd you hear about it?
I'm not even sure. I probably read about it, something in Super Street back in the day. But my first time, like, really experiencing it, like, in car, was my girlfriend at the time was in high school, and she had an Integra that was swapped. Yeah, dude.
Dang, your first VTEC stories with your ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, it was pretty fucking scary, let me tell you. Anyway, she had this swapped Integra, dude, and it was kind of a junker, to be honest. But anyway, it had VTEC, dude, and she was like stoked to show me, go out ripping in it for the first time. And dude, she did. I was scared for my life, dude. Second gear, dude. The dash is hopping, dude, and it's spinning the Motaggies on it, dude.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and then it's making all these crazy noises. I'm like, what is going on, dude? Like, and then I knew.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that's VTEC.
You're all turned up over VTEC. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably one of my first in-car experiences with it. Because, I mean, in my earlier days, I was pretty heavy into Nissans. Wasn't too into Hondas. But once I got into them, I understood. And I was like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty cool.
Hondas were for assholes, pretty much. Like,
yeah.
I mean, no doubt. I was
chicks.
a Honda guy. Yeah, chicks and assholes, man, pretty much. I mean, I fell under both categories. What? Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, so for me, my buddy Randy, I remember specifically him, like, introducing me to VTEC. He didn't have a VTEC car, but he was always, like, a very mechanically inclined dude, and so things like that really interested him.
Yeah.
And I remember him trying to explain to me, like, the cam profile and the way that the lifters worked, and I was just like, what? Like, I remember him trying to explain this to me so heavily. Thanks, Randy, appreciate it. But I never got it until I owned a VTEC car and, like, could kind of put the two together. But my first experience that I can remember with VTEC, and I'm sure I had one before this with like a B16A or whatever, somebody's, CRX or something. But that we've spoken on it before. Dave Perry had a fully built by Mugen Integra Type R.
Oh, yeah.
And he took me for a ride in this thing. It was my first ride in a right-hand drive car. First ride in like a built Honda, and this thing was nasty. And he took me on the highway. We went like whatever, exit to exit, and we get on the highway, and he does that fourth gear pull on the highway, revved out to 10,000 RPM, and VTEC kicked in at like 6,000 RPM.
Yeah, and
I was just like, that right there solidified that I was into Hondas. Like when he did that, like, and to give you, if you've never felt VTEC, like VTEC on a stock, let's just say B18, B16, any Type R motor is like, impressive. It's cool.
Yeah.
But when you get a fully built Mugen motor revving out to 10,000 RPMs, just blowing smoke out the ass of this thing, just ripping, dude. That VTEC actually does feel like a very small turbo.
Yeah.
Because it's tuned so well and it is built so well for VTEC, NA VTEC, that it actually feels like a very like small turbo as opposed to just a oomph, type of thing. And I will never forget that, because like I said, like, dude, we're hitting 10,000 RPM and I'm looking out the side mirror, and like I said, there's just smoke blowing. I'm on the left side of the car, like, and I'm like,
I'm not driving.
Yeah, and I'm like 19. So you can just imagine it's like, so that was really cool to me, and I was a little spoiled having that type of ride be the first like, moment, but shortly after I purchased an EK, because I was like, dude, this is the truth for sure.
Do you remember the first time doing a highway pull and hitting VTEC in fifth gear? VTECing in fifth gear, dog. That used to be like.
I remember my first time, but I remember
that used to be the
it.
Goal, right? Like, dude, hitting VTEC in fifth gear, dude, you're in it at that point.
Oh yeah. You feel like you're doing 190, but you're actually doing 122. But still, for sure. Being on the highway, fifth gear, VTEC in the EK for sure. But that was just asking for trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had a buddy, Andrew. He had an EG hatch, and it had, I believe it was a B18C, and it had some crazy NA build on it. And dude, That thing was insane. He would let me drive it, and he would just, ride in the passenger seat, and we would just go out cruising the highways at night.
Did
and
you say it was an EG?
Yeah.
Teal?
No, it was before that one. It was white.
Okay, sorry, keep
But
going.
it was a cool car. So anyway, we would just go out and cruise the highway, do whatever, and like we were goofs. So anytime we got up next to a Mustang, I would intentionally kind of mess with him, just kind of give him a couple revs, downshift.
We were goofs. Okay, yeah.
Just doing goofball stuff. Like we're in a Honda. Like it's a 4-cylinder. It's NA. It's slow, quote quote. But it was pretty cool. Like these Mustangs and these GTOs and stuff, they would take off, dude, and I would downshift take right off with them, and they wouldn't pull, and I would pull on them a few times, and it's just like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, this is cool.
And
like,
dude,
Hondas can actually be kind of fast.
Yeah, and it had, like I said, it had some crazy build on it where it revved past where the tack would go. And dude, that was just like the coolest thing, just spinning tires, dude, and seeing that thing just wrapping the tack.
Yeah. The dash hop was the worst though, like the and you're like, okay, what's about to fall off of here? This is a Honda.
And then also the password JDM intake.
Oh yeah, the whale penis.
Yeah. Dude, those made Hondas sound crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like, the
because
intake
of
noise,
the volume of air that you could get in. Yeah.
Dude, it was like a megaphone for your intake, and he had one of those on it, dude, and it just sounded insane.
Oh yeah, those
core
are classic.
Core memory for the Hondas right there.
Yeah. One of my core memories with VTEC is the first time I got to ride in an NSX.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that's obviously six-cylinder VTEC.
That was the first one in the U.S. with VTEC as well.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So, I remember my buddy. He had a red NSX, and he was, again, highway pulls. And the fourth gear VTEC highway pull, and I just remember being like, oh, because at this point I had an EK and I had VTEC, but that was a little, 4-cylinder, 1.6 liter, like, whereas we're talking about the big boy NSX. And so that was a really cool moment, just like waiting for it. Because, my first time riding in his car, and I'm just like waiting for it. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Like, like got a little chubby. Like, he's like, dude, chill out. And I'm like, oh, shit. But that was really cool. And what made it so cool is, from the videos back in the day, the grip videos, option videos, all that stuff, they would always have the NA NSXs on the Wangan.
Yeah.
And, there would be the whole crew of them, and they would have ITBs and all that stuff. And then they would get the videos of them ripping on the Wangan, and you would hear the VTEC. And
Dude.
With the ITBs, it was even more.
And the V6 is
yes, just insane. And so, that was awesome for me. But, I mean, even beyond, driving VTEC and all that, the videos, like, again, from back in the day, NSXs aside, but like Temple of VTEC, if you've never watched that video, that's an awesome video, about VTECs and, about VTEC and the cars that it's in. And then the battle at 10,000 RPM, which I sent you the other day.
Yeah. That
one for me was pretty iconic because, again, I was into Hondas by this point, and they had, an S2000, an NSX, a CRX, an EK. Yeah. What else was in there? They threw in the weird IS300. They threw in an IS for whatever reason, but all the rest of them were and they had a City, a Honda City. So it was battle at 10,000 RPMs, all NA cars.
Yeah.
And, dude, these cars are just singing around the track.
Dude, I bet.
And so with NA, as we all know, of course, you got to extract the most power out of that motor.
Right.
Sure. But it's also about weight reduction. It's about corner balancing. It's about all of that when it comes down to this very limited amount of power you can extract from the car. And so, who would you think if I just threw out, a City, an EK, a CRX, who do you think is going to win? NSX, S2000. Who's winning if you had to just guess?
Probably like one like an S2000 or an NSX, I would think.
That's what you would think, but the CRX blew the friggin'
Oh,
doors off
that was
them,
my
dude.
third. I was gonna
Yeah.
say that because the lightweight.
Yeah, that was
Two-seater
it
thing,
too.
right?
They were super focused. I cannot remember what shop built that CRX, but they were super focused on the weight reduction and the balance of the car instead of just having the most power. And dude, this thing would come off two wheels on the high corners, just like it was so light, and so a lot of those type of videos really inspired me to really enjoy Hondas, and then of course VTEC with a turbo.
Yeah.
Right? Like this car behind us.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next.
Yeah, I mean, or okay, first off, an EG with a B16A with a turbo.
Yeah.
Right? That's like a raw setup. That's not smooth. You know what I mean? That's like it's raw.
Yeah. You built that.
Yeah.
Honda didn't build that.
Yeah, Honda
you
didn't
built
build
that in your garage.
You built that, exactly. And so it's still sweet. And if you have a good tuner, it's definitely still sweet because VTEC still kicks in where you want it to, and it actually does something with the turbo, right?
Yeah.
But then you have a car like the FK8, the FL5, any of these K20 turbos, right?
Yeah.
It's a different thing. Like you said, Honda built that.
Yeah.
And Honda knows what they're doing when they build stuff, just like they did when they built VTEC, back in '89 or whatever.
Right.
And so this is different. This is not like yeah, of course, like you feel the VTEC and there's VTEC. It's not the same.
It's not that golden era VTEC you're looking for.
No, it's not, because it's been refined.
Right.
And that's what it's supposed to be. We're used to a more raw mechanical version of VTEC, and that is what got our adrenaline pumping. Having 100 and something horsepower, like, you're excited, but now you got these, which are tuned to the max from the factory, which are, very efficient, very high horsepower comparatively, and it's amazing. It's smooth. It's not that kick anymore. Right. You can hear it a little bit. It's like still there, but it's not so dramatic.
Right.
Because it's not supposed to be in this car.
Because it's refined, right?
Right, it's refined, and of course, like it's awesome. A quick jailbreak and a tune on this thing, and it opens it up like I've never had another car open up before, and that's sick.
Yeah.
I don't got to do all that. Getting a manifold, a downpipe, a fuel controller,
right.
whatever it may be. Get some mega squirt in there if you're getting crazy, like
chill.
Yeah. But this is good, This is great for that. Like we said, it's refined, and so some people maybe don't like where VTEC has gone, because they are like the old school purists, which I can relate to as well. Like it was sick jumping in that DB8 ITR and hammering VTEC. I wasn't going freaking nowhere, dude, but it sounded sick. You know what I mean? And so I do feel like that's a nostalgic thing. Yeah. This is like up with the times, you know? And if I had to choose one, that's hard because you can go out, warm this thing up, and then spin the first two gears, chirp the third one.
Yeah.
If I get in a B16 car without a turbo and try to chirp anything, it's just going to be, it's not working,
Right.
I don't know what would chirp, but it wouldn't be the
especially
tires.
Wouldn't B19s.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I love VTEC. You love VTEC.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody who would say, no, I don't love VTEC.
Yeah. I daily drive a Fit, so I wish. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And that has VTEC?
Oh, yeah. It has iVTEC. It's intelligent.
Wrong button. Yeah. I mean, and that's a whole different thing, too, right?
Yeah.
That's a 1 point what?
It's a 1.5. It's the
1.5,
L15B
right.
or something.
Yeah, so I mean that's a whole different thing too,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
you're still feeling it. I heard you chirp something.
Oh
out
yeah,
there.
dude, it'll chirp them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And see, that's the silly shit that still gets dudes excited.
Yeah. I just wish it made a little bit more VTEC noise. Might have to get a controller on it and
Oh yeah,
bring it
nice.
down a little bit or something.
Oh yeah, 2200 RPM.
do some tweaking.
But yeah, I mean, throw us your feedback. Tell us what you love about VTEC. Tell us what we don't know. We're not VTEC pros. We're just enthusiasts that love the noise.
Yeah, dude,
right?
love the noise.
Yeah, you just love the noise.
It's really what I love the most about it.
It really is, and yeah, definitely hit us up on the socials at RHDGUIS. DM us with any feedback. We love the feedback. But for episode 97, the VTEC Yo episode. That's actually his license plate.
Yeah, it
VTEC Yo. Yeah, so he's a fanboy. Holla.
Got it on the plate. It's official.
I'm Bobby. This is Aaron.
See ya.
Peace.